My girlfriend stole $3,000 from our savings to go away with her ex. I drove her to the airport with a kiss, froze all the accounts, and left her stranded and broke. Her ex abandoned her, and she lost everything. I'm 28 years old, work in logistics for a medium-sized company, and what happened about 6 months ago still has me processing everything. You know, like I can't believe I actually lived through that. I guess I should start from the beginning, when I met Sophia 3 years ago at a mutual friend's party. She was, I don't know how to explain it, magnetic. I mean, she'd walk into a room and people would notice her. She was smart, funny, had that kind of charisma that makes you feel special when she pays attention to you, you know what I mean? I was completely in love. Honestly, I thought she was the person I was going to spend the rest of my life with. The first 2 years were amazing. Seriously, one of those relationships you see in movies. We moved in together after the first year, got a small but cozy apartment in the north part of the city, and everything seemed perfect. We opened a joint savings account because we were talking about getting married eventually, maybe buying a house, you know, all those plans you make when you think you found the right person. I was putting in like 60% of my paycheck there every month. She put in less because she made a little less than me working in marketing. But the thing is, it was our money. Or at least that's what I thought. Things started getting weird about 8 months ago, but I didn't see it coming, or didn't want to see it. Sophia started being super protective of her phone. Like she'd take it to the bathroom, put it face down when she was near me, quickly switch apps if I walked into the room. At first, I didn't think much of it because, well, everyone has a right to their privacy, right? But then she started going out more, like girls' nights with work friends, weekends with Rachel, supposedly her best friend. And there was always an excuse for why I couldn't come. She'd say things like she needed her space, that it was healthy to have time apart, and I, like an idiot, would just nod because I didn't want to be that controlling, toxic boyfriend. The thing that really made me suspicious was in March, I think, or maybe it was late February. I checked our savings account because I wanted to see how much we'd accumulated, you know, to surprise Sophia with the idea of a trip or something, and I saw that $3,000 was missing. $3,000 that had been withdrawn in a single transaction like a week before. I just stared at my computer screen for like 10 minutes, unable to process what I was seeing. When I asked her that night, she didn't even flinch, told me super casually that she'd used it to book a trip with Rachel, that they were going to the beach for a week, that she needed a break from work and the stress of the city. I said, Sophia, $3,000 is a lot of money for a girl's trip. Couldn't you have consulted me first? And she got upset, accused me of not trusting her, of controlling her, basically made me feel like shit for daring to question anything. She said, Rachel and her had been planning it for months, that she deserved it after working so hard, and that I should be happy she was doing something to take care of her mental health. The typical emotional manipulation that you don't see until it's too late, you know? But something in my head didn't add up. I called Rachel like 2 days later, made up an excuse that I wanted to organize something as a surprise for when they got back from the trip, and Rachel said, What trip? She had no idea what I was talking about. She went quiet for a second, and then said, Sophia probably got confused or something, but I could hear in her voice that she also knew something weird was going on. That's when I really started to worry. That night I waited until Sophia fell asleep. I'd never done anything like that. Seriously, I'm not one of those people who checks their partner's phone, but I felt something was very wrong and I needed to know the truth. Her phone was on the nightstand. I unlocked it. He knew her. Password because before we had no secrets, or so I thought, and started going through it. At first I didn't find anything strange, but then I opened her email, and there it all was. There were like 50 emails between her and Derek, her ex-boyfriend. Derek, the guy she'd told me she had no contact with, that relationship had ended years ago and that I had nothing to worry about. The emails were from the last 4 months, and they weren't casual messages like, hey, how are you? They were long, intimate conversations, planning this trip together. They talked about how excited they were, how they couldn't wait to be alone, how much they missed each other. There were hotel confirmations, flight confirmations, everything paid for with our money. The money I'd been saving thinking about our future together. I felt physically sick, literally thought I was going to throw up right there in bed. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped the phone. I kept reading because I guess I I needed to punish myself more or something, and found text messages too, photos they'd sent each other, things I'm not going to detail because it still hurts to think about. The worst part of it all is that she'd been so careful, so methodical in hiding everything, but at the same time so careless in thinking I'd never find out. I looked at her sleeping there next to me, so peaceful, so innocent in appearance, and thought, who the hell is this person? How much of our relationship has been real? How many times has she lied to my face while I told her I loved her? I didn't sleep at all that night. I stayed awake until dawn thinking about what to do, how to handle this, whether to confront her immediately or wait. I decided to wait. I don't know why. Maybe because I wanted to have a plan. Maybe because part of me didn't want it to be real and thought if I waited a little longer I'd find a logical explanation for everything. Spoiler. There wasn't one. The next few days were the weirdest of my life. Sophia acted completely normal, kissed me when she left for work, asked me how my day had been. We cooked together at night like always. I played the part too, smiled, nodded, but inside I was dying. The trip was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Sophia started packing early, showed me the swimsuits she'd bought with our credit card, of course, told me how excited she was to spend time with Rachel. Each lie was like a stab, but I kept smiling, kept saying things like, it was great she was going to relax, that she deserved it. The night before she left, we had dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant. She was radiant, happy, probably thinking about how the next day she'd be with Derek. I was sitting there thinking about my plan. Because yes, I'd made a plan. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me just like that. I wasn't going to be the idiot who stays crying while she has fun with her ex, using my money. I took her to the airport the next morning. She gave me a long kiss. On the lips, told me, I love you, the audacity, seriously, and promised she'd send me pictures every day. I told her to have fun, that I loved her too, and watched her disappear through security with her pink suitcase. As soon as her flight took off, I went straight to the bank. I froze the savings account. I called the bank and explained that I suspected fraudulent activity, that I needed to block all transactions until further notice. The representative asked if I was sure, because it would also block my access. And I said yes, that I was completely sure. Then I canceled the joint credit card we had. All Sophia had to spend on that trip was the cash she had on her, which according to what I saw in the emails, wasn't much because she planned to use the cards for everything. About 2 days passed. I was at work when my phone started going crazy. Sophia had called me like 20 times, sent me 1,000 messages. The first ones were like confused. Marcus, my card isn't working. I know what happened? But then they got more desperate. I called her back after my lunch break. She answered on the first ring. Her voice sounded frantic. Marcus, what's going on? My cards aren't working. I tried to get money from the ATM and it says the account is frozen. Did you do something? And I, super calm, said, oh yeah, I froze everything. She went quiet for a second and then exploded. What did you do? What? Are you crazy? I'm stranded here with no money. I need those cards. And I said, no, Sophia, you don't need them. What you need is to explain to me what you're doing in Cancun with Derek instead of in Miami with Rachel like you told me. The silence that followed was probably the most satisfying thing I've ever felt in my life. I could hear her trying to process how I'd found out, searching in her head for what to say, how to get out of this. She finally stammered something like, I can explain. It's not what you think. And I laughed. Literally laughed in her face. I said, Sophia, I read all the emails, all the messages, saw the photos. I know exactly what it is. We're done. When you get back, your stuff is going to be packed and out of the apartment. I don't want to see you again. She started crying, begging, saying it had been a mistake, that Derek didn't mean anything, that she loved me, all the classic lies someone says when they're caught. I told her to figure it out with Derek to get back home, that I wasn't going to help her, and I hung up. I blocked her number immediately. The next few days were a whirlwind. I called my brother and 2 friends. We went to the apartment and packed all of Sophia's stuff. It wasn't easy because 3 years of living together means a lot of mixed up things. But we did it. We put everything in boxes, left them at her mom's apartment. He sent her mom a message briefly explaining the situation, Obviously, the lady took her side, but at least she agreed to receive the boxes. I changed the locks that same day. Sophia came, back like 4 days later. According to what I found out later from mutual friends, Derek abandoned her when he realized the drama that was coming, basically left her alone at the hotel, and left early. She had to borrow money for the return flight, and when she got to the apartment and saw the locks were changed, she started sending me messages from her mom's phone because I'd blocked her from everything. The messages were an emotional roller coaster. One said she hated me, that I was an abuser for leaving her without money, that she was going to sue me. The next was begging, saying she made a terrible mistake, that she'd do anything to fix it, that she couldn't live without me. Then back to insults. I didn't respond to any of them. Didn't even read them completely. Honestly, what Sophia did do was try to turn our friends against me. She told them a completely distorted version of the story, saying I'd abandoned her for no reason, that I'd frozen the accounts out of irrational jealousy, that she'd only gone on a trip with a friend and I'd exploded out of insecurity. Some friends called me asking what had really happened, and that's when I showed the evidence. I sent them screenshots of the emails, of the messages between her and Derek, of the bank transactions showing how she'd used our savings for the trip. I showed them the conversation with Rachel, where it was clear she'd never planned to go with Sophia. Sophia's narrative completely fell apart. Most of our friends stopped talking to her after that. Some told me they'd always suspected something weird was going on with her, but hadn't wanted to get involved. The money issue was complicated. Sophia wanted her part of the savings, and legally she probably had a right to something, but I refused to make it easy for her. I let her go through all the necessary banking processes, fill out forms, wait the legal times. I didn't do anything illegal, just didn't make things easy for her. Eventually, the bank released her part. But by then, like 2 months had passed, and she was living with her mom. Without a job, she quit because she couldn't stand the looks from people who knew what she'd done. Basically destroyed financially and emotionally. I'm not going to lie, there was a part of me that felt satisfaction seeing how everything was falling apart for her. Derek obviously wanted nothing to do with her after the disaster. She'd lost most of her friends. Her mom was disappointed. Her mom had always treated me well, and I think she genuinely liked me. And financially, she was at zero. But there was also another part of me that just felt sadness, not for her specifically, but for everything we'd had that turned out to be a lie. I focused on myself after that. I started going to the gym religiously, like a way to get out all the anger and frustration I felt. I spent more time with my friends, reconnected with people I'd neglected during the relationship because Sophia always found excuses for why we couldn't go out with them. I got more into work, accepted extra projects, basically kept myself busy. The first few months were tough. I'm not going to lie. There were nights when I'd wake up and for a second, forget what had happened. Expect to see her sleeping next to me. Then reality would hit me, and I'd feel empty. But over time, it got easier. I started going out with other people casually, nothing serious, just to remind myself there were other options, that all wasn't lost. I heard through mutual friends that Sophia eventually got a job in another city and moved like 2 months ago. Apparently she's trying to start over, away from everyone who knows the story. I don't know how she's doing, and honestly I don't care. I blocked everything that could connect me to her social media, mutual friends who still talk to her, everything. What was hardest for me to process wasn't so much the infidelity itself, although that hurt like hell, but the complete betrayal. Like, I was the person I shared everything with, who I was planning my future with, and it turned out she was capable of looking me in the eyes and lying to me every day. It made me doubt my ability to judge people, made me wonder what other things I'd missed, what other signs I'd ignored. I'm still working on that, I guess on trusting my instinct again. Now I'm in a better place. I'm not going to say I'm completely healed or that I'm already over everything because that would be a lie, but I'm okay, or at least on my way to being okay. I started dating someone a month ago. Nothing serious yet, but it's nice. And she knows the whole story because I decided to be completely honest from the beginning. I don't want to be in a relationship again where there are secrets or half-truths. What I learned from all this is that you have to trust your instinct. If something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. I ignored all the red flags because I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend, because I trusted Sophia blindly, and it almost cost me much more than what I already lost. I also learned that self-respect is non-negotiable. There are people who told me I was too harsh, that freezing the accounts was vengeful and cruel, but I don't see it that way. She used our money to cheat on me. Was I supposed to smile and make things easy for her? No, definitely not. Last week I found a photo of us that had been left in a drawer from one of our first anniversaries. We both looked so happy, so in love. I stared at it for a while, wondering at what exact moment everything went to hell, if there was a specific moment or if it was gradual. Then I ripped it up and threw it in the trash. There's no point holding on to the past when that past was built on lies. I guess if I could tell someone going through something similar, it would be that it's okay to put yourself first, that it's okay to walk away from something that hurts you even if you love that person. That love isn't enough if there's no respect and honesty. And that yes, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. But eventually you're going to wake up one day and realize you can breathe again, that you can think about something other than the pain. I'm not completely on the other side yet, but I can see the exit now. And that's enough for now.